All right, I think we're good to go, Paul.
Hey everybody, this is Paul Call again, and this has been a fun episode of the weekly webcast that we do with Oliver and Rick. This one has been entirely my fault. We had a bit of an oversight in terms of how we set things up. I'm logging on with my webcam right now, not so thrilled with the results. I like the big camera. What's funny is I actually set up the whole studio to get this thing right, and not everything crossed, not everything fixed. So, oh well, that is the nature of the beast. I might try to fix it here while Oliver does his bit. Oliver, today's topic is a fun one. Tell the audience just a little bit about it, would you?
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about taking surveys or polls, any outside lead data gathering that you want to get for your prospects and funneling that into your instant customer campaigns. It can be very powerful the way that you use this information. Obviously, the more information that you know about your prospects and customers, the better that you can service them and provide them with relevant information, timely information. And so what we're going to show you today is using our Zapier connection, how to basically link specifically SurveyMonkey right into Instant Customer, and then we have a really new added feature that we've built out in trigger texting that gives you some special functionality for this specific machine. So without any delay,
Well,
I'm going to go
hold
ahead.
on. I
Yep,
do want to set that up a bit.
go for
So
it.
in surveying, we're using the industry standard here, SurveyMonkey. We're using the one that everybody uses,
Yep,
right?
yep.
And why did we pick SurveyMonkey as opposed to building our own surveys? Like, what does partnering with SurveyMonkey bring to the game?
Well, with us right now, we have web forms that we can give you that you can get basic lead information, but SurveyMonkey does some nice stuff where you do multiple choice answers, radial buttons so people could select a bunch of options. You can build really nice surveys and get kind of some analytic information through SurveyMonkey. So it's just really just the mechanism. They have more options on the amount or the kind of data that you can collect. So really nice web forms. And like I said, this is for SurveyMonkey, but what we're going to explain to you at the end of this is that you could use it with Wufoo forms or Jot forms. There's a bunch of different options out there.
Okay, now if you partner with somebody like SurveyMonkey, does it make you seem more legitimate? I mean, if I go to somebody's website and there's a poll, but like SurveyMonkey, because they're so well known, it's like, there's some benefit to hosting a SurveyMonkey poll. There is some benefit to sending somebody to a trusted third-party provider to do the aggregation of the notes and that kind of thing, wouldn't you think?
Absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
that's a really good point.
All right, cool. All right, well, bring up the demo here. Let's see what you got.
Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen with you guys. And first of all, I'm going to bring this up. Okay, so this should work. Share screen. And let me know when you can see my screen.
I see it. Looks great.
Okay, so we call this the Instant Survey Marketing Machine. It's an integration template, so that means that it works by using our Zapier connection, where you can take Instant Customer and connect it to over 250 plus different web apps out there. So anything that you can think of, we've already covered ones in the past on how to connect to Eventbrite, how to connect to Appointlit. There's a bunch of them out there. The one that we're going to be focusing on specific today is SurveyMonkey, and as Paul said, it's really kind of like the de facto standard of the industry for web surveys and polls. So let's go ahead and talk about what this machine does. And basically, by offering your prospects and customer surveys, these will help you gather vital data so you can identify their needs and learn how you best can serve them. You will also, by targeting your prospects' responses, so when they reply to your surveys, by targeting their responses with specific relevant replies, you're going to build trust and loyalty in your brand. So when you ask a question of somebody and they're going to give you one or two, three possible answers, you're going to reply with the information that they responded to, not the information that they did not. Again, this obviously will grow loyalty and trust with you, and just really helps everything along the way. Also, by using this new machine that we have here, we've added something to trigger texting. So using survey responses to fire off specific trigger messaging from Instant Customer will elevate your campaign's effectiveness. All right, so again, if you have a campaign and you have a bunch of different responses written up, so let's just use real estate, for example. We've been doing that as a theme throughout all of our broadcasts. Basically, we talk about the scenario as a real estate agent, and let's say that someone was looking, you asked someone, are you interested in a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, or 5-bedroom home, and they respond with 3-bedroom in a survey. You can make sure that when that information is sent from SurveyMonkey to us, we can have it automatically fire off a trigger message inside of Instant Customer that is just going to send them information on 3-bedroom homes. Okay? And just to kind of give you a refresher on what text or trigger texting is or trigger messaging is, when you have a campaign, you have normal autoresponders that are set to go to anybody who joins the campaign. So you'll have an SMS, usually an email that will go out. Maybe you'll have a timed autoresponder to go out 15 minutes or a day later. But with trigger texting, it doesn't go out to everybody. It only goes out to the people that trigger that particular message. So for example, what you see on the screen right now, we have talked about if you had a trigger text that had a hashtag keyword as a trigger called #PDF, when those people respond with that hashtag, it will send out that SMS autoresponder to just those people. And same thing with the other options that you see on the screen, like a hashtag video, hashtag bonus, hashtag free. All of this can be incorporated into what we're doing with SurveyMonkey right now. So if someone responds, make a certain response, you can have that response maybe trigger hashtag bonus, or maybe hashtag small business, or the real estate scenario that we've given you, hashtag 3-bedrooms, and it will only send out that information to them. So again, it's called the Instant Survey Marketing Machine. We're going to jump right into the demo with Rick, and again, this is being done with SurveyMonkey. However, you can really swap that out with a bunch of others that are out there. There's one called Wufoo Forms that I'm actually a really big fan of. Really, really easy to use. Jot Forms is another one. There's a few others out there, but between SurveyMonkey and Wufoo Forms, you're really going to find all the bells and whistles that you need to build, first of all, build a really powerful survey, and it gives you a lot of different tools. So let's go ahead and jump right into the demo, and I'm going to switch the controls over to Rick. So how you doing, Rick? He's the strong silent type.
I'm just fine. How are you today? All right, let's take a look at this. I think this is really, really cool. The additions to the trigger texting option is the one thing we're going to show you today. We're also going to show you some ways to combine fields in some of this Zapier integration stuff. That's something we have not done yet. So we've built out a couple of solutions for you guys that are really exciting, that'll really help you guys. So here's my little survey here in SurveyMonkey. And if you've never used SurveyMonkey, this is really the first time I've ever used it. It really was pretty easy to use. It is just a point-and-click, drag-and-drop kind of a thing. You can create whatever questions you want. The one we're going to do today is one that is kind of a stripped-down version of something that Mike would typically do, which is gaining information about someone's business in order to then follow up with that person and attack any kind of pain points they might have. So, I mean, you can take a look here.
Can you zoom in on your screen a little?
Okay, sure. How's that?
That's better. Thank you.
All right. So in this case, we've got some. Well, I don't think that zooming is going to work for that because I can't turn it off. I'll zoom it as soon as I get off of this thing. Okay, so this is a really good example here. I want some basic information when people fill out the survey. And again, remember, we're going to put this survey on a lead page in Instant Customer. We're going to connect it via Zapier, and when they fill it out, it's going to automatically put them into your campaign and trigger your autoresponder. So in this case, I'm just going to go for first name, state, and email address. I went for state in case you're doing something on the net. You'd have a better idea of where somebody is, how likely it would be that you could help them. A really easy, quick sorting thing there. And then first name and email is kind of the lowest, the lowest thing that'll get people to take your survey there. I've got a couple of questions here to try to figure out what's more important to people, whether it's generating leads or converting them into paying clients. Really important, and I've put kind of a priority thing on here. Need to solve right away or need to solve 2 or 3 months. I've seen Mike do it with a lot more variations than this. Is definitely a simplified version of it. Now, really important here, I wanted to know whether somebody owned their own business or was currently working for someone else. This could give me an opportunity to train them up as a consulting client, or if they have a business, it would let me know right away that I'm going to go in there to help them with their actual marketing. What kind of industry are you in? Really important when you first go into client. The more you know about their industry. I know a lot of people have no clue, and Paul, I'm sure will back this up, have no clue what a customer is worth to them, whether it's in the short run, long term, things like that. That is definitely something you can use to help price your business. And then, this is a typical question for Mike, what's the #1 way you're currently getting leads, which would give you some insight into maybe what they're doing, whether they're doing it wrong, or whether they're doing completely the wrong thing. Now, once you've got your survey done here, you've got a number of different ways to set it up. In this case, we're setting this up as a website survey. So really kind of cool here. They have in SurveyMonkey what they call website collectors, which means you can actually separately track something you might have put on a website or any, they have a number of different collecting ways to do it. So in this case, what you would do with Instant Customer is do the website collector, and then it's just going to give you some code here that you can just take out, and we're going to drop that directly into one of our lead pages. We'll show you how to do that right now. So in this case, all of your machines, as you know, are in the template gallery, so you're just going to create from template. In this case, the easiest way is just to type in the word survey. I'll blow this up for you guys. And we've got the Instant Survey machine, brand new here. We're just going to select that, run through this real quick, and then show you the magic of it. So I'm always going to just put some way to identify this for myself, and this is just going to be my little demo. In this case, I'm not going to use a phone number. I think it's definitely something that I have no problem recommending, is trying to get that phone number. Now, if you go back to SurveyMonkey, you can make certain fields required or voluntary, so that would be definitely something to take a look at. Okay, now basically all of this is going to happen on one. I put it on a squeeze page because remember that we're using SurveyMonkey to get the information, so we don't really need a lead page. A squeeze page is something that you can design relatively easily and really any way you want. So that's my preference, is to go with is to edit up a squeeze page when I'm looking to do something a little bit different. As you know, it's really easy to pick banners here. I'm going to go ahead and use one of my AEMM banners because that's all I have in this account pretty much. What do I got for up? I've got some interesting videos here. We're just going to use one of Mike's standard opt-in videos. And for a product, I'll use our Instant Customer Mastery one. Now I've got a short title for the bonuses. In this case, I'm just using the Instant Survey machine information, which is a how-to guide and the demo site, and use what I have in my main description here, if you can see it, is just use the survey machine to capture qualified leads with valuable demographic information that replies based on their answers. That's what we're going to show you right now, because that's really where the gold is in this template. So let's take a look first at a couple of different things here. Number one, let's take a look at the page. And pretty simple page, just got a banner, and the way I've got this designed, it does have a video up here for you to put in, which is definitely something Mike would do, have a little, why you're filling out the form, what he's looking for. I'm giving you a couple of bonuses down here, and then a little more description there. And then here is our form. So the form, the way I have it is built straight into the page. Really super simple. I'm just going to fill this out for me.
And while you're doing that, Rick, also when you're inside of SurveyMonkey, there's other options where you don't necessarily just have to have the form embedded on the page. You could have a link or a button that when you would click it, it would open up a pop-up window with the survey. So there's a lot of kind of cool ways that you can launch these surveys right inside of SurveyMonkey.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like I was saying, those are some of your other options in that, what they call a collector. The pop-up is really cool. The invitation is cool that you can go straight to SurveyMonkey site as well if you don't have a place. But they do, and I do love the fact that each one of those is tracked different. So when you get into some split testing, that is really cool. So I'm going to say I am an expert, which in some things I probably am. Mm-hmm. And the number one way we're getting leads, let's say we're doing it through, a lot of times you will see small businesses that are using paid advertising that is no longer working. So we're just going to hit done here. That really just says thank you for you. Some options there on how you can do that. And again, anytime you do one of these integrations, it's really smart to go ahead and put some information into the system first, so when you're using Zapier to collect everything, that you know what you're doing. It gives you that real time. Now let's take a look at these autoresponders. And this is something you've only been able to do through text before, which is use the hashtags. So I'm going to go ahead here and edit my autoresponders, because really even when I do the test from SurveyMonkey, I want to see my autoresponders work as well. So we're doing this instantly after trigger text hash, or really just after a hashtag. And in this case, I have two different emails in here. I have one that is, so basically, and this is a really interesting thing if you've never seen it, that businesses are doing, and that's giving a survey, but then only zeroing in on one question, and that really breaks out how you want to kind of attack the responses. So in this case, I focused in on the question of whether or not you owned your own business or you were an employee. So the way I have this email is, and so the question was, do you work for someone else? So I'm going to pick a word that's in that response. In this case, work, or I could pick else, someone else. I could pick someone. But basically what you want is a word that's in the response that's unique to the survey. So when I bring that information in, it'll automatically recognize it as a hashtag. I don't even have to use the hashtag in the actual response. This is really cool, but definitely it's something you want to pay attention to the detail on here.
And
so just go ahead.
Another second example of that. We were originally talking about like a real estate campaign. So imagine if you had a survey that was saying, what is your budget that you're looking for? And you give them multiple options to choose from, like 100,000 to 300,000, and the second option would be 500,000 to 700,000. Your hashtag in that situation, Rick, would be something like 500K or something.
Yeah, you just kind of want to keep away from any weird characters and just make sure you're spacing everything out. The system is not going to be able to, distinguish things that aren't spaced out. So, and I know we've used a couple of examples. We just used like 750K plus, and you had to put 750K plus, and it worked just fine. You just want to be specific when you're in here.
Yep.
So my email is kind of interesting. It says, we know you're tired of working for someone else, and let us train you to be a highly paid business marketing consultant. I've put in, just so you can, if you've never done this in your emails before, it's definitely something you want to learn how to do, which is have your area of expertise in custom field 4. If you don't sure what your custom fields are, you can always go to your tags over here and just hover over them, and they'll tell you what this is. You can see the custom 4 is industry, and custom 5 is, where'd it go? Lead source. So my email has got your area of expertise, which is your industry, so it'll just put it in there. When somebody answers that question, it'll just zip it right in there, and your lead generation comes from here, and there are lots of ways you can play around with this. I was really doing this more as an example. We've used this for 2-3 years here, I think, Oliver, think we've used this for 2 or 3 years where we put people's answers from their survey into the email, and it is really, it lets people know that you're responding to them directly.
Correct.
Well, and one thing that's really cool about that is to have the knowledge is, yes, it's a cool marketing trick, but there's also the element that you actually know what it is that your audience wants. You know, how many times have you had a salesperson call you and say, well, what you really need is X? And no, that's not what I really need. What I really need is Y. And when you collect data points about what your audience needs, and when you collect data points about what your audience is looking for, you know, I mean, no real estate agent, you know, should try to get you outside of your budget, you know. And when you have that knowledge, the sale is going to come faster. A. B. When you show that you have that knowledge, you actually show that you're paying attention, which is a radical game changer in this space. You know, in mass, you know, enforced customization, you know, when everybody thinks they know exactly what we want, when we go, okay, I know you're looking for this, you're looking for it here, this is your range, you're going to be in a much, much better place, and that's what's so exciting about this.
Totally agree. And on that sort of note, let's take it one step further. I'm going to edit this and show you the custom fields, how we have that built out. It's really important in this campaign more than any other campaign we've used, and I'm going to point out a couple of things that would really help on that same idea. So in this case, we have basically taken all of the category of responses and we've created a custom field for them. So I've named them priority problems, which was, you know, your problem that was right now, or whether it could wait a little bit, whether you were an owner or an employee, the industry you're in, and the lead source. Now, if you take a look here, I know it's hard to see here. Let me blow it up two more times. These say KDA enabled. Now, KDA enabled is keyword density analysis, which means our system will run reports and show you which are the most common responses in each category. So depending on where you're putting the survey, you may be getting, you know, a lot of people that are doing print advertising or a lot of people that are doing social media, depending, you know, on just the circumstance, the environment that's in. And it can give you really valuable information on your own as to what problems are out there, what the current mood of the market is. So really important to have KDA enabled when you use these custom fields. And the other one you're going to see here, this is probably, well, it is the most important one, is there is a field here called hashtag. Now, if you want to use this campaign, you can come in and with these, you know, depending on what your survey is, you could just edit these or you could delete them and add new ones, but you absolutely have to keep this hashtag custom field intact. Has to just stay like that. Just name it hashtag. You can add this to other campaigns you want if you want this functionality, but there must be a custom field here named hashtag that takes the information and finds the hashtags that are in it, and then kicks off your autoresponders. So a really important part of this is learning how to use this additional field, this additional custom fields in your campaigns. So let's run over to the, okay, I'm back out of there. Let's run over to the Zap Connect the Zap now. So you just go over to your Zaps tab, and we're just going to make a new Zap, and remember this is going to come from SurveyMonkey to Instant Customer. Pretty simple, just when somebody fills out a form, we're going to make sure we grab that information over. And then we're going to show you one other kind of advanced trick on categories here. So here's our service, SurveyMonkey. We've got a trigger. That trigger is when a new survey response is completed. We're going to chuck this over to Instant Customer, and we're going to add a new subscriber. Pretty simple. Now, our SurveyMonkey account, I already have one set up, but again, it's just an OAuth that you put in your name and password. That's really all you have to do there. Really simple. As per usual, our Instant Customer Zapier account is already automatically created. Now you've got to hook to the correct survey. Now in this case I've got one just called Survey Template Demo. And this is what I was talking about before. You do have a choice. If you wanted to create a campaign or at least a Zap that only dealt with the web link or only dealt with, like Oliver said, the pop-up, you could choose, a specific one. Otherwise, you can just leave that blank and it'll take all of them. As we showed you with some of the other ones, you've got some custom filters you can use here, not really necessary for what we're doing today. And again, so it's really important that you create at least one subscriber in your other field and your other program. What am I looking for, Oliver? App, web app. Okay, so we're just looking for first name, and so this is really what we're looking for here. Oh, that's interesting, the way that came across. Or we're looking for email there. Is it the same place? Yeah, it all came through that same one.
Yep. You have to sparse.
Here it is. There's
the contact information is best when.
Yeah, well, it looks like it's got it. Either you can get it all at once or it is parsed out.
Right.
I just didn't see it. So here's first name. Yeah, this is where it's parsed out.
And if I can jump in here.
Yeah.
This is both the greatest thing in the world about Zapier and the thing you have to worry about the most about Zapier. What we're doing is we're combining multiple systems that, when they invented SurveyMonkey, they never said, well, let's make sure this integrates with the guys over at Instant Customer. And as cool as we are, that was never part of the process. So what we must do, what you have to do is line these up each time, and then, for goodness sakes, test it. Not everybody uses the same nomenclature, not everybody uses everything, so you line these things up and test it. That's really, really important.
Right, and if we could, the SurveyMonkey didn't think about how they could connect with us, but Zapier has made it really, as easy as it possibly can be with all the different variables out there to make it work. So, Rick, if you could just scroll up to it 1 second where so right there where you have responses, enter your contact information, email address. If you guys can recall when Rick was showing you SurveyMonkey, and maybe do you have it in another tab, Rick?
Yeah.
Can you just click back to that? All right, so the very first question that you have, go ahead and edit that for 1 second.
Sure.
That question, that module right there, that's like one field according to Zapier. And what SurveyMonkey is doing is that for this one field, which is contact information, they have like all of this other bits of information that they're kind of joining or grouping together in that field. So when Rick was able to go ahead and find something that says enter responses for your contact information, Zapier has taken it so far to say, okay, well, we know that SurveyMonkey sometimes groups their information together, so we're going to parse those out into separate entries, and you can see right here it says responses for your contact information, email, responses for your contact information, first name, responses for your contact information, last name. So, Zapier's really tried to the best of their abilities to make this understandable for you. Hopefully I was able to do so.
Well, and again, I think this is another reason why you have a subscriber in there before you do this, because it's really, if I would have just seen this, I would have totally freaked out, but I did just see my first name there, so then I went, I see what they're doing. They're just parsing it out here. Here's first name, here's state, here's email. So if you have that information in there, it makes it 100 times easier.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go down to the fun part. So let's hook up. I'm going to go upside down here. So I'm going to look for my lead source, which, what did I say was paid advertising. See, again, I'm just looking for the answers on this. The industry was expert. So again, what type of industry is your experience? Owner or employee, owned your own business. Priority problems you need to solve right away. Now here's where we're going to let's have some fun here. We've definitely, that's given us two different answers here. So unlike the other one, where is it going to give them both here? Let's just do it this way. All right, so let's say you've got a field where you want both answers. So we just want all of these to go into this one place in Priority Problems in Instant Customer. So what you've got to do is just put an and sign between them. If you want to use more than one and you still wanted to, you give some separation so you can do some of that KDA stuff we were talking about, you've just got to put an and sign in there, and you can add as many as you want. Really pretty easy. Now, just because we've used some of these in one doesn't mean we can't use them in another one. So again, if you remember my emails were based on whether or not you were an owner or an employee. So not only do we want to use that there, but we're going to use that exact same one here if I can find owner business. So the response was, do you currently own or are you working? You do the same thing, real estate. Do you currently own or are you renting? Similar kind of a thing. And again, if you wanted to search for hashtags in more than one category, it would be the same thing. You would just put an and then you could search. So if you had a hashtag system for whether or not you work or own your own business, and also for what kind of advertising were you doing, something like that, you could actually put them both in here, and the system would hunt down any of those pre-configured hashtags that you've got. So let's take a look and prove this stuff works. We're going to test this trigger here. We're going to take a look at our sample, which looks just fine. And we're going to go down and test the Zap, which means you're going to send that information. It's going to go to SurveyMonkey and bring over that subscriber and create a subscriber in Instant Customer on the fly. So we've got a success. We're good to go. We're going to name this Instant Survey Zap. We're going to turn the Zap on, and then we're going to run back to the campaign and take a look at our subscriber. Now, I answered that question as I owned my own business. So we'll see. Let's go ahead and take a look at this record. We can always just hover over and edit a subscriber record. We're going to go to Client Actions. We're going to take a look and let's see. So hashtag, all this information went into the hashtag. Since we had a hashtag that was called own, it should find that and kick off that autoresponder, but you've got all the information for your stuff. Just like Paul said, now we've got, if you have these surveys filled out and you have a salesperson, you can give them this information. They're going to know all of this information prior to contact. They can do some homework. They can zero right in on that client. And so here's what I was looking for. Right in the client info, it shows you which hashtags have been applied. And right there, bam, the own hashtag was applied. So if we go back to our autoresponders, let's take a look, which we just created, so they were at 0. You can see that right now this one absolutely went out, and it is the own one. So if I go to my email right now, I will definitely have this one as a fellow business owner. So you fill out the survey and you get a targeted email right away. Keep an eye on, what I would do is check my campaign a couple of times a day and just go through, these autoresponders and see which ones have responses and follow, you've got their email address. You could follow up with them directly. If you have your phone number, the same thing. So a lot here. This is definitely one you're going to want to go over a couple times and pause up and try it yourself. But there's everything here is going to make you money. Getting more information, getting that information sorted, getting targeted and relevant information to each part of your demographic, tracking those responses so you get a feel for your market and you can put your time and effort into the things that are affecting people right now. There's a lot here that's going to do you good.
Okay, well, that was it.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, that was,
this is good stuff, guys, and the implications of this is really, really staggering. Isn't the right word, but it's really, really vital, because what you can do now is you can really kick up the whole game to a level of interactivity and knowledge with your audience that we didn't have before, that most people couldn't take, at least couldn't automate the process. Now, what's interesting here, we just saw the tech. What's interesting here is Mike asks, and this is a great question. Apart from the mechanics of setting up the campaign, I'm curious about asking questions in a way that get a high response rate. Is there a sequence for asking questions that works better than others? This is a really good question. I want to share a couple thoughts on it, and then Oliver, Rick, I'd love your thoughts on it. But the big thing is you don't need / you don't want a high response rate from the wrong type of people. And this is huge. This is vital. If you are looking to sell houses this month, you don't want a high response rate for somebody who wants to buy in 2020, or somebody who is curious if real estate is a good investment or that type of thing. So getting a high response rate from the wrong people is actually no good. Now, getting a high response rate from the right people is absolutely phenomenal. And this is really, really important. And this is where your expertise comes into play. If I were to ask a realtor, what are the 5 questions that you need to have answered before you can really help somebody buy a house or sell a house? If I get those 5 questions to the real estate agent, those are the 5 questions that I build into the SurveyMonkey. I know when somebody comes to me, asking about podcasting or comes about multicasting, I know the very first question I ask them before anything else is do you have a topic right now, a specific topic that you want to multicast about, podcast about? That's a yes or no. If they say no, I really don't care what the rest of the questions are, because that means they're on some sort of vision quest trying to figure out who they are, and that's not the technical issue that my calls might be about. So I appreciate, asking questions in such a way to get a high response rate. I appreciate the question, but really refine it, asking the right questions to find the right people to get the high response rate. Now, the cool thing is when you have the right person, do you have content for your show? Yes. Okay, the next thing, is it audio or video? Well, they're going to answer that because they have content for the show, or maybe audio, video, I don't know. Have you already bought equipment? Do you already have a format plan? I know exactly what questions to ask because I'm an expert in this field. And if you're an expert in your field, you know exactly what questions to ask once you've asked that defining question. Then, of course, if you're doing this for somebody else, and this is huge because Super Mario's asking about this, Nobby's asking about this. If you're doing this for somebody else, this is part of where you come in as a value add as the consultant. It's not, let's make a form. It's what are the top questions that are going to get you the introduction to what you're doing. My first bookkeeper, he was really funny. He had he was expensive, but what he did was he billed on 15-minute increments. And what he did was, if I could call, ask a question, and ask the questions in such a way that I got the answer done in less than 7.5 minutes, it was a free call, which caused me to kind of think through the whole process, which was exactly what he wanted as a bookkeeper. And this is the same idea that you want to take to others, exactly what you want to find out. So if you're the expert, if you're not the expert, this is where the consulting comes into play, and you can ask the expert what the questions are and then go from there. Oliver, Rick, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I agree completely with that. I would say that, from a basic, standpoint, there is certain information that you want to ask for first. Let's take example of what we did with the survey. We put a survey on a web page, and we're basically asking all of the survey questions one after another. That might be overwhelming to some people. You may want to start that off with just asking for their name and email, get them to that second page, and have your survey question on the second page, and then it can update the subscriber record. It's kind of the same philosophy that we've used when you ask for a mobile number. Everybody knows here at Instant Customer we're big fans of getting the mobile number, but in many situations we're asking for that as a secondary opt-in information. So we want their name and email because that's got the low friction that's going to get people to opt in. People will give you that. Maybe you're going to tell them I have a survey that can give you responses on how to make your business more effective. Put your name and email below. They put their name and email below, and even if they don't fill out the survey, you have their basic information, and then you can jump into the secondary information later. But I would agree with everything that you said, Paul. And Rick, you got anything you want to add to that? You're muted.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to get unmuted. I think there's a couple things in there. We talked about the sorting, and I think Paul is dead on there, where I love these surveys that pre-sort, pre-qualify people. So if you put a question in there, or if somebody's really not interested, or they're on some sort of, I think you said, a vision quest, then you can just get rid of that and just follow up on the other answers. I think there are 10 by 10 by 4 implications here. It sounds like this is a place really where the should ask questions come in. You've got the frequently asked questions you guys know about, but those should ask questions I think are going to be questions on a survey like this where it may be things that people didn't know was important, and it might pique their curiosity and keep them going. In my example, I've got a bonus. I've got bonuses on there to complete the survey. I think any kind of incentive is really important. I think expectations on the survey are really, really important. I took a survey the other day with somebody that I really, really respect, and it said, hey, answer a few quick questions and I'll give you this bonus. I got to page like 5, and it was on like question 30, and I went click off because my expectation of a quick survey with a few questions was completely blown, and I was just torqued off at that point. So I think
that's true too. You know, what are the minimal amounts of questions you have to ask? You know, one of my favorite ones is when I go to some huge company with data warehousing things, and they ask me for both my zip code and my city. You know, if you ask me for the zip code, you have my city. It's not that complicated. And yeah, you know, really it is how few questions, because boy, if you send them, you know, you ask me too many, Rick, I'm just like you, man. You ask me too many questions, I am out of there. Doesn't matter how cool the tech is.
Yeah, I think there are certain circumstances where I would answer a lot of questions, but you know, I think you got to know your market, and that's an observational thing. Is watch a couple people go through it, and if they get frustrated or if they don't understand, you know, that's a big feedback thing on stuff like this. If you don't have somebody run through it and watch them, it may be really clear to you what the question means, and then you watch somebody else answer it, and they don't have the first idea what you're trying to get to. So I think some of that kind of experimentation is important there too, and you know, really. I think all marketing is test marketing. So if you're not getting that kind of feedback on those questions, you know, your market's going to tell you whether those questions are interesting and they keep going or not. It's we can just give you some hints, but that's just legwork I think you got to do.
And there's also some neat. There's just on top of that, there's some neat stuff inside of SurveyMonkey that does conditional questions. So if you have a yes or no question for somebody and they answer no, it could skip to other parts of your survey, so you don't have to bother them with kind of follow-up questions on the one that they said that they're not interested in. So there's some really nice features that you guys can kind of find inside of SurveyMonkey and still have that information that they do respond to sent over to Instant Customer.
Now, Super Mario asked about examples of using trigger texting outside of real estate and auto, which is exactly what you know, which we like to talk about all the time. So I'll share a thought or two here. You know, trigger texting is the mechanism to get what it is that the person's looking for, and this is important, you know, because everything is, you know, the mechanism to get what it is that the person's looking for. My mom will trigger text if it gets her something that she's looking for. You know, my dad will trigger text if it gets him something he's looking for. So specifically, you know, he asked about, you know, software, speaking, books and products, author, experts. Well, I'll tell you one thing. You know, inside the Multicast Marketing book, which I have a few dozen copies of around, but none within arm's reach. You know, the Multicast Marketing book, at the end of the first 6 chapters, we have a trigger texting call to each one of them about 6 giveaways, and we do that for a number of reasons. A, we want to build the list, but B, I guarantee something really, really cool is going to happen. In about 6 months, we're going to take those 6 chapters of the Multicast Marketing book, and one of them is probably going to get more trigger text than all the other chapters combined, which means that that particular thing was really, really, really attractive to our audience. So I definitely recommend that. Speaking from stage, oh my goodness, you know, it is a lot cooler, and you got a lot better chance if you say from stage, hey, if you want a copy of my notes, text #notes to the phone number, and then start the crowd grab there. Same thing inside of software and that kind of stuff. And these days, software is delivered over the internet. So you tell people, hey, I want to keep this small. If you want additional files, go ahead and send me a text. Very, very, very doable. Any thoughts there, guys, or should we hit the next question?
Well, I think you said it all. I mean, I believe you and Mike just did a webinar on doing like trigger texting with books. I mean, didn't you guys just do that?
Yeah, I'm right now. I'm running a complete blank on exactly which industry that was for, and whether or not I could put that in here as a bonus or that type of thing. So I got to be careful there. But yeah, and it's doable, and it makes sense because the thing is, if I want information, we're going to be at a good, I will do what it takes to get the information. And the thing about trigger texting is huge and easy. If I'm watching Super Mario on stage and Super Mario says, if you want to copy my notes, text your name and email address. It's Paul Colligan, what's my email address? That's a lot of texting. But if I text hashtag notes, now it's going to have to, text me back and ask for the name and email address, but I can do that after I'm there and I'm not at the event, typing it on the phone, that type of thing. So Kelvin says, surveys are great for filtering out potential clients before a consulting meeting and getting rid of those that can't afford or in the wrong industry. Exactly, Kelvin. This is exactly why we have it. Now you've got your website, and you might have 100 survey completions that really mean you should only call 2 people. That's when the survey does its best, and then the other 98 people get the email auto-response, or they get a check back in 6 months kind of thing. That's exactly what it's for, Kelvin. And automating it through Instant Customer is very, very exciting. Any thoughts on that one, Oliver, Rick?
Rick?
Well, yeah, I think you've got brilliant opportunities to partner and cross-sell under that circumstance. If you've got an industry where you might only respond to 2 people out of 100, I guarantee there's somebody else in a similar industry that would love to have those other 98. So you could put some sort of a JV link in there that says, hey, if you're only interested in houses between $50,000 and $150,000, click here. I got a buddy for you. He'll take care of you, something like that. And that's going to be, you're going to be lead generation for somebody else at the same time. So while you're doing your own, you're going to make some money on the side, partnering your JV and on the ones that you don't want. So I think you've got tremendous opportunities there.
Okay, another good question came in. And this is good. What are the restrictions in using the survey? So could you use the Crowd Converter, build a mobile page, use SMS? Would that conflict with parts of the system? And I guess this is probably, it's good under the SurveyMonkey thing, but on a larger scale, how many of these things do you connect together technically before something explodes is question 2. Question 1 is, and this is important, how many logically do you want to blend together? And that's the big question, a lot of times. And Justin, I know you, and you like this stuff, and it's fun to stack all these things on top. But be really, really careful. Be really, really logical. What exactly do you want to accomplish? What is the goal? I want this piece of information. Then it's a 1-question survey. I want these 3 pieces. Then it's a 3-person survey. Every element you add, every additional step they have, is a reason for, like Rick chatted about a little bit earlier, to just go, oh, forget it, I'm out of here. Shopping cart abandonment is a huge issue. People add 2 or 3 things to their shopping cart, online, and then they get up and leave because they can. The same thing happens there. So, sociologically, psychologically, strategically, as few as is humanly possible. But in terms of just raw, bringing all this stuff together, Oliver, Rick, what's our restrictions here?
Well, I haven't seen it really trip up too much. I mean, the one thing that in the past maybe you could have done is tried to create a loop by mistake where you were having Instant Customer add a lead to Instant Customer, or Instant Customer to Aweber, and Aweber sending back to Instant Customer again, and now you got this loop. We've actually put in some safeguards to make sure that doesn't happen. If you're like Rick and myself, I mean, we have created, without Zapier, some really complicated funnels for Instant Customer and our sales process, our lead funnels, and I kind of like having a campaign that can do a lot. I like putting the thought into it and looking at the different services that I want it to do. So I'm kind of for putting a lot of things in there, but I do agree with Paul. It really depends on your level, what you need it to do, map it out.
Well, a lot
drop.
behind the scenes is different than a lot in front of the scenes.
Oh yeah.
You know, if they answer 3 questions and you trigger 87 things in the background, that's just awesome sauce right there.
Yeah.
You know, but if they have to answer 87 questions for you to trigger 87 things, that's where the problem comes into play.
The least amount of friction from them, work on their side the best. But then once you have that lead and how you want to sort it, like you said, behind the scenes, that's where you can get some amazing value. And then, the thinking behind it is that if you spend the time trying to calculate what your funnel is going to be, you really set that up once, and then every single person that comes in, this machine is working for you when you're sleeping, and that's the where you're going to really reap the rewards of it. Rick? Muted.
Okay, there's a couple things. Number one, the limitation. It's really interesting that with that hashtag, as long as you have that hashtag custom field, you can then kind of mine any response you want for hashtags. Now, whether they use the hashtag symbol or not, as long as you're taking the response and putting that in the hashtag field. So that means email responses, SMS responses, or a custom field on one of our web forms. You're not stuck with SurveyMonkey or anything. This is now giving you like 4 more different ways to trigger those hashtags than you had before. So that's very powerful. Now, when you come to using a lot of different hashtags in the same campaign, that is where this custom filter, I think, in Zapier is really important. So, have you got my screen there?
Yes.
When you're building these in Zapier, you've got these custom filters where you can pick the specific words out, whether or not they're in the field or not, and then put them in this campaign or that campaign. So what you may want to do then is, if you've got too many and it looks like you're having a hard time figuring out your own campaign, start using that filter and maybe use one campaign for one thing and one campaign. Maybe you could use a different campaign for each industry, and then you could still send trigger text based on income or what kind of advertising they're using, but that way that you wouldn't be tripping over multiple hashtag emails on the same campaign.
Absolutely. Paul?
Okay, one more question, and this is the old-fashioned world of a rapid response here. Let's clear up our definitions. What is the difference between a trigger and a hashtag?
Rick, you want to go ahead and do that?
Sure. A trigger. Well, I mean, there's a couple of different things there. Now, the first thing is, in Zapier, a trigger is. Oops, I'm in the wrong place. A trigger is the action that kicks everything off. So let's give the total answer to this. So when I come into my Zap,
you want to go ahead and switch your screen? We're looking at you.
I should.
I can kind of see it off your eyeballs, but not quite.
Too bad
it's an eye cast.
Too bad I don't have my glasses on there. It probably would have been much easier. All right, so in Zapier, they consider a trigger the thing that kicks everything off. So in this case, the actual trigger is the SurveyMonkey completing a response, and then that triggers the new subscriber in Instant Customer. So
another way to think of that, just not to throw it off, but with your trigger and your action, is an if and a then.
Exactly.
So if this happens, then that.
Yeah, so if there's a survey completed in SurveyMonkey, then a subscriber is done in Instant Customer. Now, a hashtag is a keyword that the system recognizes in order to send out what we're going to call, again, the word trigger is used here again. For instance, in Instant Customer, receiving a keyword with a hashtag on it is going to trigger your autoresponder. So really, we're using that in more of a functional way rather than it's kind of a very specific term in Zapier. So in this example, when the survey is submitted and that question on whether you own your own business or you work for somebody else, when that answer comes in, that will trigger one of these two emails depending on which response they gave. So, again, in Instant Customer, you define the hashtags in the emails themselves. You have to predefine these in order for this to work. And you don't have to put the hashtag in here. Really, you don't have to put the hashtag even in your answer. Like I said, this is just meant to work when people are texting in for the trigger texting. They do have to reply with the hashtag in order to make that work. So again, in this case, the trigger is the reception of the keyword, which is the hashtag. Does that make sense?
Yep. And he had questions about custom fields and the and sign, which was a new thing. So like you created a custom field hashtag today.
Right. Okay. The and sign, it only comes in Zapier. And again, if you are going to combine answers into the same field, and I'll give you the actual example we did is I had a question on the priority of your problems. It was do you have a problem with lead generation or closing sales? And on either one of those, do you have more of a priority of one? Do you need to get your lead generation taken care of right now, or do you have a little time to burn on that? And the same with your other one. So when you're adding additional fields, more than one field, in this process, you've got to separate them with an and sign. You can use a comma as well. I just think the and sign is easier to see and more explains what you're doing there. And that way, as long as these are separated out, the system will be able to crunch that data better. It'll still do it the other way, but you're more prone to get mistakes. So stick to this. I think that probably the better example of this in the future is going to be, let's say that you're using hashtags not only for whether or not you own your own business, but let's say you do want to take a look at one of the other, let's say you've got some hashtags in, let's see, what else did we have in here? What kind of advertising you were using, okay? So let's say you had a hashtag print advertising and you had a hashtag in social media. This way you could bring all of these fields into the same hashtag custom field, and the system would find the keywords in both responses. Okay, you've got to separate this out with something. Otherwise, if your keyword is at the very beginning, it would ram it together with the end of the other answer. You've got to put some separation in there. You've got to separate these two answers in order for the system to find all of the possible hashtags in there.
Great.
Okay, so Donna asks, and this is a great question, can you use this SurveyMonkey inside of a webinar, like with Webinar Jam or Stealth Seminar or something, or is a simple poll better? This is the kind of strategic stuff that I think Oliver was speaking to. I would use this in a GoToWebinar. I would use this inside of a I would use this whenever you could, because realize this is going to trigger stuff. A GoToWebinar poll, a Webinar Jam poll, gets you some facts. This gets you some action. This triggers things that happen and that kind of stuff, and it's a pretty fabulous opportunity. So I would highly recommend integrating it with live events, integrating it with YouTube videos, integrating it with podcasts, that kind of stuff. I would definitely do there. Nabi asks about outside of the U.S. trigger texting issues. Right now, it's a U.S. thing. It's just what it is. So we keep everybody in terms of the international stuff updated there. So sorry about that, Nabi, but right now it's just a U.S. thing. And believe me, we wish we could bring it to all the countries. We are just where we are at with the industry that we're at with right now. So that's the situation there. Oliver, Rick, thank you so much. This has been really good. I think everybody's mind's kind of buzzing. I think the questions we see coming in kind of proves to that. This is exciting. SurveyMonkey, what's the cost for SurveyMonkey, Rick?
Oliver?
Paul? No. 1 second. You guys talk. You close up. I'll find out really quick for you.
I think there's a free version. I mean, I can look it up right here now. I
don't think it's expensive.
I'm pretty sure. Let's see here. Oh, look, they've got all complicated on us. I'm not quite sure, but you know, it's not that much, and Oliver will look it up. The fact of the matter is
they got a free. They have a free version. You can also get started at $17 a month, $25 a month, $65 a month. It really depends on the number of responses.
Yeah. So this is ideal. I'll tell you. I mean, boy, you know, you put video at YouTube because people trust YouTube. You know, a lot of times, you know, despite all the hangout options and that kind of stuff, you know, going to known names are there. You know, if there's a SurveyMonkey form, I know that somebody's taking this seriously. I've got a much more of a chance to fill it out. And now that you can trigger and not have to kind of, you know, rustle through the information yourself, man, you know, this is a really, really exciting place. So I'm stoked. I can't wait to see what people do with this. I would love to have a success story posted at our next event, somebody chatting about huge deal they closed as a result of an automated survey here. I think that would be fabulous. But I will let we'll let Rick go, then we'll let Oliver go, and then we'll shut down. So go ahead, Rick.
Okay, go for it, Rick.
Just to reiterate, there's a lot here. Definitely come back to this video. Feel free to pause it. Try the stuff like Paul said, like I say all the time. Test it. Figure out what works for you. Just make sure you define that hashtag in your autoresponder first, and then set up your questions to match that. I just think there's a lot of opportunity here. If you are dealing with businesses and they know, you know, by 1 or 2 questions, if somebody's has got a good shot to be a client, set this up for them, get it moving, and help them get clients. That's the way to go.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of reiterate what Rick said there. I mean, in this webinar today, we really kind of packed 2 things into it. Yes, it has to do with using surveys and tying surveys into Instant Customer, but as we were building that out, we really saw a strong purpose to go ahead and do a little tweak to our trigger messaging so we could go ahead and give you guys more options. So we actually had our programmers kind of make some tweaks to it. So like we said, if someone responds to your survey, that survey response can fire off a very specific trigger message. So maybe if you're a little confused on that, watch this webinar again, and you're going to see that there's really 2 messages that we're giving you in it that allow you to do it. Now, as for the successes that Paul has been asking for you guys to send in, I hope that you guys beat me to it, but I might beat you because we are basically we're changing our Instant Customer funnels right now, and we're going to be using surveys for anyone who wants to get a trial with us. So if anybody wants a trial, look, you guys are already customers with us, but you've noticed that right now we've just kind of been giving the trials away for free. We're going to have people go through a survey. So they go through the trial, and if for some reason they don't take advantage of the trial or after the trial, you know, they don't pay for their first month, we have captured a bunch of useful data on them so we can maybe follow up or refine an offer to them. So beat me to the punch, but we believe in this so much that we're using it to change our marketing funnels.
Very, very cool. Oliver, Rick, thank you. Audience, thank you. If you've got further questions, go ahead and contact support, and we'll see you at our next webinar. So thanks so much, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.